So tonight is September 28th, and the Austin area chapter of the American Holistic Nurses. We are so excited to have Dr. Darlene Hess with us tonight. And she's the first author of the first edition of The Art and Science of Nurse Coaching. I would love to read a bit about her bio. Darlene Hess is a licensed registered nurse and certified nurse practitioner in New Mexico. She has a PhD in health education and health promotion from the University of New Mexico. She has 2 master's degrees in nursing, one as an advanced practice nurse in psychiatric mental health nursing, and the other as a community clinical specialist and family nurse practitioner. She's credentialed as a professional certified coach by the International Coaching Federation and as a health and wellness nurse coach by the American Holistic Nurses Credentialing Corporation. She's board certified as an adult and psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner and advanced practice holistic nurse. Darlene was the director of a national task force commissioned by the American Holistic Nurses Certification Corporation to create role competencies and a certification process for nurse coaches. She has co-authored several publications on coaching, including lead author of first edition, The Art and Science of Nurse Coaching, the Provider's Guide for Coaching, Scope, and Competencies. So here it is. And Darlene, I think we'll let Teresa talk for a bit about how to use Zoom in case people don't know the new ropes since everything changed yesterday.
So I'm not sure I know as much as I thought I did, but if you look at the bottom of Zoom, you'll see where it says participants, chat, which is where you can put in any questions or comments. I will be monitoring that during the presentation so that we can answer questions when we have a break or at the end of the presentation. The other screen or the other button I'd like you to look at is where it says reactions. If you click on that, it has emojis and the raise your hand feature. So if you have a question at the end and you'd like to raise your hand to ask it, just click there. I think the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
And mine is being silly again, so I'm not sure what's happening.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
Darlene may actually have some stopping points in her presentation to us and invite questions. If you do have a question, please go to reactions and raise your hand, or just wave to us from the screen. And Darlene loves to see beautiful smiles, so she welcomes you to put your camera on. I will say that I have all of the CE requests that came in before today, but I wasn't able to capture today's CE requests. So if you would list your email in the chat, your name and email in the chat if you registered today. And with that, I just want to welcome Darlene and say how wonderful it is to be here with you tonight. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Wow, this should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I've been thinking a lot about what I wanted to talk about tonight once Lynn asked me to be a presenter. And I decided that I wanted to talk about something that I enjoyed talking about that would be easy and fun and doable, using those coaching kind of questions or concerns when we ask someone to take a next step. And decided that one of the things that had been on my mind a lot lately was this concept of coaching conversations and how I use them in my nursing practice, in my coaching practice. I've been coaching for several years now, and I've noticed that with several of my clients, I get feedback from them that indicates that they enjoy coaching because of the opportunity it provides for them to talk about what's going on in their lives. They don't necessarily come to a session with a goal. And so I thought about that, and I remembered reading one time about an academic article about coaching conversations that was done by a coach training program out of Canada. I've looked for that article and I have not been able to locate it, but I remember the concept of coaching conversations. And I was putting that together with what was happening in my own practice. So as I began to narrow that down a bit with my clients, okay, somebody's got a double microphone going there, getting some feedback. That's okay. I realized that they were really looking for something other than just being able to talk, of course. And what was that people were looking for? And so that began my search for finding out more and thinking more about this concept of coaching conversations. So let's just move forward here and talk about what is a coaching conversation. Well, I've got it up there on the screen for you, and I hope you can see it. Coaching conversations are intentional, very loosely structured conversations that do utilize specific skills. And this was a key thing for me, for the overall purpose of enhancing the well-being of self and others. I don't know how many people think about coaching as being beneficial for self or for the coach. But during this pandemic and in other situations that I've encountered with clients, and in thinking about where I'm going with my life and with my professional skills, I realized that I wanted to do something that I enjoyed doing and focus on that. Well, what was that? And I realized that the coaching that I did was promoting my own well-being. And I began to think about that a bit more and ask myself those kinds of reflective questions that allowed me to dig a little bit deeper. So this is how I'm defining a coaching conversation for the purpose of what I'm introducing here professionally and from my own practice as a nurse coach, as a professional coach. So I'm going to stop here, just pause. By the way, I only have 4 slides, so we're going to have lots of time for conversing and asking questions and seeing what comes up. The next part is going to be about the benefits of coaching and then some information about structuring a coaching conversation. So I'm defining it this way, and I'm doing this because I want everyone to understand that even if you do not have specific coach training, you can begin at any point in your nursing career to master the skills of a nurse coach. Many of the skills of a nurse coach are the skills of a nurse. Many of those skills of the nurse that are also relative to the role of a nurse coach are, I would say, exquisitely enhanced in the role of a nurse coach, but they are also used in any nursing practice. And I think you'll understand that here as we go along. So Lynn or Teresa, do we have any questions? I don't see the hands raised or the chat.
So no, not so far, but.
Okay.
Oh. Lynn, you muted Darlene. She's not.
I'll unmute myself here.
There we go.
Okay. 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 So everyone else is muted right now, Teresa?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right then. Very good. So here we go. Enhanced well-being of self and others. How do these things promote well-being of myself and others? I ask myself. Well, first of all, presencing. The more I do what I do, the more this concept of presencing takes on a greater role. Presencing is about, of course, being totally present. and being present on so many levels. It's about tuning in to the other person, to self, to what's going on around, to the context, to the physical feelings, to things that you're observing, and being open. And this is the main part, I think, is this being open to what is emerging in the moment. Emerging in the moment. So you're noticing, sensing, aware, and remaining totally open. You may ask for guidance. You may prepare yourself ahead of time with an intentional conversation to be aware of what needs to be noticed, and also to allow whatever is emerging to emerge, and to allow that to happen, to watch for that movement, to allow for that space with one's thoughts, one's presence. So that's how I think about presencing. I'm kind of just looking to see if anybody's waving at me. I don't see everybody, but I see several of you. Teresa's shaking her head now. Okay, great.
We're
You can see
doing
everybody.
just fine.
All right, then. Intentional and skillful communication. Where can we not improve our skills to be intentional and to be skillful in our communication? Much of communication is not intentional and probably not very skillful either. A lot of what we talk about as being communication in so many different ways is, well, sometimes I've called it social chit chat, telling jokes, commenting on the news, sharing opinions with no real intention behind it or for it. And there's nothing wrong with that. So what makes this different is it's a conversation that is participated in by 2 or more people in an intentional way for the purpose of this enhanced well-being for self and others. And then self-awareness, I've talked around that, this idea of being aware of yourself on so many different levels. I can be aware of what I'm thinking, I'm feeling, what's coming to me, sudden image that downloads into my awareness, into my consciousness, a feeling that comes out of nowhere. Is that about me? Is that about another person? All of that self-awareness, because in that moment, in an intentional, skillful communication with another person, I am using all my nursing skills to the best of my ability. And one of those, of course, is that therapeutic presence, that tuning into another, that sensing, that looking for patterns, noticing speech, just so many things that are happening. Now, I don't mean for any of this to sound overwhelming. What I'd like for everyone to recognize here, if you don't already, is that all of these are skills. That our ability as nurses to be aware, to know who we are, to sense into another person, into the environment, to receive messages from all of that, to incorporate that into our nursing practice, into our conversations with another person at any point is a skill, and it's a skill that can be enhanced. One of the main things that came out of all of this for me was recognizing that connecting with others was beneficial for me and for them. This really came about for me when I decided that my coaching practice needed more. And what I recognized in that was what it needed was someone to coach me, someone to be a coach for me. And I identified 2 different people who could do that, who had coaching skills at different levels and who were willing to share coaching. So we meet anywhere from once a week to once a month with 2 different people, and we share coaching. And it's a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. And I began to be aware of that and to enhance that and to grow that and to learn from that, so much to learn from that. As I connected with another person, I allowed myself to step into the role of a person who's being coached and to experience up close and personal that connection and that feeling of safety and that feeling of well-being and that feeling of being heard. And so as I grew, I had more to offer, not only to that person who I'm coaching, but to all of my clients. And I wouldn't even say that this has to be about clients. If you don't have a coaching practice, as I said earlier, you can still utilize these skills in so many different ways, in so many different settings. And I want to add too, that it's also about enhancing your leadership skills. I read quite a bit in the leadership literature. I've always been interested in it. I've taught some classes as a nursing professor about leadership, and and the things that I'm reading that are on the cutting edge are about these very same things that I'm talking about here in Coaching Conversations. The cutting edge business leadership literature is awash with concepts like being present, having coaching conversations with people, this skillful communication, being intentional with our communication, this self-awareness, teaching these things to leaders. And I recently, well, actually it was my son I was talking to, who's a commander with the Department of Homeland Security. And he was invited to participate in a leadership program with several other people in key leadership positions with different federal agencies. And he was learning about coaching, and he was learning about leadership, and he was learning about these concepts. And we had the best conversation in talking about that, because he hadn't really understood what coaching was. And when I explained it from the viewpoint of how I understood it, and he was learning what he was learning in leadership, he really got it. And that's just one example that's personal to me, and of course involves a family member. But like I said, the literature itself is there's so much of this in the literature in business leadership today too. So even in learning these skills, it does enhance leadership skills too. So comments, any comments so far? I have one more slide. So I welcome comments, and the last slide is going to be about how you kind of structure or what the components of a coaching conversation are. So this is more introductory material. What's on your heart and mind right now? Who would like to share something that would enhance the well-being of yourself and other people? That's I'd like to hear some comments.
Darlene, when you were just talking about being the one being coached, that
Yes.
has been one of the most valuable things I think I've ever experienced. To have someone be holding that space for me. Nurses are really used to doing it for everyone else.
Yes.
So to experience that feeling of being cared for, listened to, I think if you want to be a coach, it does well to be coached.
Yes.
And coached by someone maybe that you don't know, or that thinks different than you, or has the ability to bring forth something in you that you didn't really know was there.
Yes.
So I really like that you brought that up.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you very much.
I did create the option for you to unmute yourselves if you like. Teresa, I never have found that hand features. What I mean is how to see when the hands are raised on gallery view.
So I see Bridget has her hand up and she's waving also.
Okay.
Bridget, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, hi, Darlene. I'm from Southern California, and I have a holistic nurse and health and wellness nurse coaching certification from Wisdom of the Whole, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this. I don't know how I got into this Austin group, but it's just been wonderful, and I just want to thank you so much. I just want to just say how wonderful that Art and Science of Nurse Coaching document was. I got a chance to review it before it was published, and it just was phenomenal. So thank you for all that work. It was amazing. So thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I said that, but also just your point of two things that you've said so far that I couldn't agree more. And that is that just coaching with another nurse is profound and so valuable. That's awesome. And that it's also part of our should be in our toolbox of regular nurse skills from right out of a nursing program, which it's not. So if we could, I'm passionate about seeing if we could put nurse coaches in nursing schools. And I don't just mean for, for the students. I think for all of the nurses in a nursing program, we should all have access to nurse coaches and the skill set. So anyway, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And I'm sliding around here because I'm resetting my screen. Got bumped here a little bit. Not sure what happened, but
Teresa, can we see the raised hands if they're not on the screen, if they don't have their camera on? No. If you want to raise your hand, I think you have to have your camera on.
there we go.
Teresa, if that's not right, tell them how to do it. Oh, you're on mute, Teresa. I need to unmute you. Good grief. Okay. So I've muted Teresa and now I'm trying to find her to unmute her. This is, I thought I had set it so everybody could unmute themselves.
While you're doing that, Lynn, I'm going to comment again on Bridget, if that's okay.
Yes.
I lost a little bit of track, but I did hear what you said, Bridget, about how we say it's a basic nursing skill, and yet it's just not emphasized or practiced as much as I begin to realize that is useful, perhaps. Yes, and maybe that is not even the right word. I'm stumbling over the word useful. Necessary, really necessary.
Mhm.
Yes. Thank you so much for that comment.
Can you unmute yourself, Jan, kinder? No? Okay. Well, all right.
I'm able to unmute myself. I think everybody, all of you can unmute yourselves if she's got that turned on. So
Yeah,
that you-
she had it where we couldn't unmute ourselves, and then
Oh.
now I can, and things are kind of, I don't understand what's happening.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess whatever they changed yesterday is not as smooth as I thought it would be.
So
But
I see a hand up for Sandra and also for Jan. Can either of you unmute yourself? Do you see the place on your screen at the top or the bottom that has a little microphone? Okay.
I think I need to.
Bridget, can you unmute yourself? Can you see the, okay, where do you see the place where you unmute yourself on your screen?
Oh,
the
I
bottom?
am unmuted. Oh, that's
Now
good.
you are, now you are, yes.
I
What
was
is-
down at the left-hand corner.
Okay.
Lynn, it's Jan. You just unmuted everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody
Oh.
now has the ability to unmute.
Okay, good.
Sandra is still
You've done
muted.
good. You've done
Well,
good.
Sandra is still muted, however.
Well, Jan, go ahead and ask.
When you were saying about the reactions has where you can raise and lower the hand. It's under reactions.
yes,
You got that part. Okay, good.
I think what's happening, they changed Zoom yesterday, so we're not used to using it. But when people raise their hands, they come to the front of this line. So when you raise your hand, it allows you to see it at the top.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
That's how you know.
Okay. Well, so Sandra's also unmuted now. And either Sandra or Jen are welcome to ask or discuss with Darlene.
Okay, I have a question. First of all, I want to thank you so much for your presence and your guidance and direction. And I have a question on the self-awareness. How do you bring someone back to the present moment when they are experiencing a vision and they're not really connecting with you?
Sandra, you said when they're experiencing a what?
A vision, as
A
you
vision?
have, yes, as you are coaching them, but they're not present with you because they're having a vision of something else that is so different than the conversations you are having with them. So they're not
Okay.
present.
Well, I would say it's not about being present to you. Are they present to themselves? Or is he or she present to herself? And are you present to where she is?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, of course. If she's caught up with her vision and you are there to hear her speak of her vision, that is what you give her as the coach, is an opportunity to give words to her vision.
Thank you.
Not to take her where you want her to go, but to listen to where she wants to go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. Who else? We have Jan and we have Deborah.
Yeah, Julie, would you like to ask your own question? Let me just see.
So there was two questions in the chat real quick.
Yeah, I'm asking Julie if she would like to speak. I'm asking her to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Jan.
hi. Hi, thank you. This is a wonderful presentation. I am relatively new to the concept of nurse coaching. And so I'm wondering, in your coaching business, are you coaching nurses only, or are you opening up your coaching business to the general public?
My coaching business is and always has been open to the general public. And I have nurses as clients.
Okay, so both.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. This is very informative. I'm enjoying it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We actually talked with someone who does branding last week, and they were curious about the terminology nurse coaching. I don't know, Darlene, if you could give us a bit of background on that. There seems to be, of course, what we could call confusion on the part of both our profession and the public in regard to that terminology.
Well, I understand that for sure. And what, then the question becomes, what is nursing and what is coaching? And I straddle both of those ideas and always have, because I am professionally certified as a coach outside of nursing. So I'm a professional coach with the International Coach Federation. So, am I a coach? Am I a nurse? I'm both. I'm a nurse and I'm a coach. And when I do nurse coaching, I am combining the skills of a coach with the skills of a nurse in order to do nurse coaching. When I coach, put that aside, put my nursing background aside. And when I coach, I ask myself, how can I not bring all the other parts of me to the coaching session or to the coaching encounter? And in that way, it's the same way that any of you would do if you had a business background or an engineering background or whatever your background is. You bring all of you to the coaching session, and you will learn to navigate around all of that so that in service to your client, in service to your client. There will be times when it's perfect to share, just perfect to share something that comes from your own background. And by the way, that's another thing. Bridget, you mentioned you were from Wisdom of the Whole, and that's the program I attended too. And I remember Dr. Bark saying early on in our coach training that one of the most difficult things in training nurses is giving nurses permission and encouragement to not talk about everything they know. Because they have been taught to teach and to share information with people. And as a nurse professor, I remember when I was doing basic coaching skills with them, saying one of the first things is I want you all to do is don't teach. You're going to want to answer people's questions. You're going to want to provide answers for them, and that's not what coaching is. And it's really relevant to this presentation on coaching conversations being loosely structured, is that, and this is something I've experienced in these mutual coaching sessions that I've set up for myself, is that hearing someone else's perspective or hearing someone else's ideas about something is exactly what I need. Spirit speaks through all of us, not just through the coach and not just through the questions we ask. It can also come about because we feel an impetus to say something, and we check that out with the person, and then we contribute from that place of self-awareness and that place of other awareness that this might be the perfect thing for that person. And if it's not, that's okay. We just say, okay, well, I just wanted to share. If it resonates with you, fine. We're not attached to it, but we listen to that guidance in the moment to do that. So I said a lot there. Do you have anything else you want to add to that, Julie? You're muted, Julie.
Oh, my word.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. No, but that was very good explanation. Thank you so much. And that is true. Nurses do like to teach, so it takes a skill to listen.
Uh-huh.
We can all practice that.
Uh-huh.
Well, we have a couple of people who have interest in speaking. Elizabeth Ann mentioned us, her interest in the chat. So Elizabeth, I'll let you go first, and then Deborah.
Okay.
Well,
Unmute myself.
I think you're unmuted. I think I unmuted you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I hear you, Elizabeth. I don't see you, but I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I have actually, I'm actually in nurse practitioner school right now. And
Okay.
we just finished a module on motivational interviewing. And it just stressed to me how important, as you were just saying, listening is, rather than teaching, that writing reflex that we all have. But I just struggle with finding the right questions in the moment. And I don't know if there's any tool that we can have to practice that before we get in these counseling or coaching situations, or I just struggle with that personally.
Well, first of all, if you are in a coach training program, you will get opportunities to learn about and to practice asking what are oftentimes referred to as powerful questions. And there are many different ways to ask different things, and you get exposed to the different kinds of questions that a coach can ask. There is one thing that I learned in my program, and again, this was from Dr. Bark, and that was when you don't know what to ask, and there's that silence, and by the way, silence may be just the thing that is needed. We all know that. and you're comfortable with that, you can allow that to occur. And you can say one of two things. You can say, no, you can say either say, I'm not sure what to say next. Do you have any ideas? Where would you like to go next? Or you could say, so what question do I need to ask you right now?
Oh. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Deborah, are you able, let's see here. There you go. You're unmuted.
I put a little note in the chat just that it makes my heart sing to hear that it's expanding into the areas that you mentioned, other arenas that are non-nursing. And it reminded me, it's been at least 2 years ago because it was before COVID, maybe even 5 years, but I was driving down the interstate in St. Louis and there was a hospital billboard that said, healing presence, and then the hospital's name. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually happening. It's expanding, just
I like that.
thrilled to hear that. This is what we learned in our basic nursing was the listening skills and the reflection
Yes.
and then it was just expanded during my holistic nursing certification. But one of the most challenging things is for me to not teach. Yes, still to this day. Yeah.
Yeah, to think we have an answer that's better. And sometimes we might, and that's why I say it's okay to ask, because it might be just something that comes to you that is exactly what the other person needs to have. But that's not because you're teaching it and it's a priori, where you think you know what it's going to be. It's because you're tuning in and you're in that field, in that patterned energy field between you and another person that allows you to say it in just the right way or present it in just the right way so that it does become therapeutic, it becomes enhanced, for the purpose of enhanced well-being. Yes, very nice.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay.
I saw Jan had her hand up earlier. Jan, did you still have a question? Jan Kinder? Okay.
Okay, we ready to move on?
Yes.
All right. Last slide here. And these are the components of loosely structured coaching conversation. They're also pretty much, they're the components of any kind of a coaching session that is structured, but they're used rather loosely. So, and these are the things that enhance one's skills in communication also. So it starts with, of course, realizing what your objective or purpose is in doing what you're doing. Why are you talking? Why are you opening your mouth? Why are you speaking? What is your intention? So what's your objective? What's your purpose? And then what's the objective or purpose of the other person too? Now, in a coaching conversation, there may be this overall overarching objective that is the purpose for why you're going back and forth. For example, one of the people who I have shared coaching with wanted to do coaching. She wanted to practice her coaching with me, and she wanted to learn coaching. And I wanted to benefit from both teaching and learning from her. So that was an overarching purpose that we were able to articulate and share. This is why we're doing what we're doing, and leave it at that. And then to revisit that every so often. But then we would also say, okay, what are we going to focus on for today? Each of us would select something that we were going to focus on for that day. And when I say specific focus, it can also be a specific broad focus, which means to me that someone or I might say, you know what, I really just, I'm feeling heavy today, and I just would really like to sort it out a bit and kind of maybe talk around it till I can get some clarity. See, it's pretty broad, but it's specific to something that I really want to focus on. So what this does is it begins to train us to think about, why am I talking? Why am I doing this? And why am I having this conversation with another person? And of course, if it is a coaching conversation, there is that understanding between two people, two or more people, that we're doing this and we're calling it coaching. But we may or may not be clients for one another. We may be friends. We may be good friends, and we're just learning together, and we're coaching together, and we're practicing skills together. Or we're two nurses who are learning how to connect with one another. And these are just some ways that you can begin to think about that, practice that, and even begin to teach or communicate to other people how you do what you do. So I have the objective, the specific focus, and then this thing I'm calling tracking, which is learning to pay attention to what's going on. What did that person say? What did they say about that? And how did they look when they said that? And also tracking self at the same time. What am I feeling as I'm going through this? This paying attention and tracking requires a focus and requires attention to. Attending to the conversation, attending to another person, and attending to self at the same time. And I know that you all know that the ability to attend to self simultaneously with another, and sometimes even with a group, is a complex, well-honed skill and does require practice. Learning. And I could also say here that learning a word that might go in there also instead of learning is experiencing. As we experience, we learn. As we learn, it's based on the experiences that we have. But this, what are you experiencing? What are you learning? What is the other person learning? What can you put words to it? Can you articulate it? You might not be able to, but if you can't put words to it, don't let go of it. What are you feeling? What kind of feeling are you having as a result of this conversation? How is this feeling to you? So there's that kind of learning, that kind of experiencing. And then evaluating, which is, the takeaway, or how are you leaving with this? How are you with this? Is this working for you? Is this working for me? Just a moment to say, how was this? Did we get where we wanted to go? And then going forward. For me, I paused over that. Is it really about going forward? Been reading a lot about the eternal now and the concept of time, space, reality, and then multidimensional realities that occur simultaneously. And so it's really got my mind expanded more into paying attention to the language I use around forward, back, forth, up, down, high, time, that kind of thing. But anyhow, this idea that coaching is about going forward in any way that we're experiencing, and life itself is about that. So it's just an opportunity to tune in and say, okay, what am I experiencing here? What am I taking away from this? And where am I going with this? And I could say going forward, I could also say, more. What am I reaching for? And did this bring me more of more, whatever that might be? So those are the components that I put there, but it is just, a short little list of things to help pay attention to or structure, or loosely structure, I should say, how to go about interacting with another person if you would want to start learning some more, practicing some more, experimenting some more with coaching conversations, whether you are or not in some training. There's a lot of, as Lynn introduced in the book, the new edition is out for the standards of coaching for nurses. You can take a look at that. You can read some articles, but this is a short, sweet, I hope, presentation on some skills that you can begin and some ways you can begin to think about how you communicate and to be more intentional perhaps with it if you choose to. So. Yeah, I'm going to pause there and just go with whatever comes next. And then I'll let Lynn or Teresa wind it up for us.
Well, we still have about 15 minutes, so I would love to ask Darlene about nurses as your audience. One of the things that I've noticed tonight is that you had simply 4 slides. And
But I have what?
the number 4 slides.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, when you're speaking to academic healthcare professionals and nurses specifically, are there recommendations that you might have for us?
For when you're speaking to an audience like that?
Yes.
Oh, if I was doing a presentation like that, I suppose I should have all my references and that sort of thing. But really, like I said earlier, I wanted something that would be fun and easy for me and doable. And this comes from my own practice. And I'm transparent about that that's where it comes from. And this is what I've learned, and this is what I'm putting together to carry it forth. And I think for me, that's what what I would do, unless I was demonstrating in a class. I'm stumbling over the question because I have done so many of those kinds of presentations, Lynn, and I've done what I've done for a long time, and I know all about evidence-based practice. And then there's this part of me that I'm to a place in my life where it's not all about the evidence, the objective evidence. It's about what I'm experiencing and what other people are experiencing, and trusting that as the evidence, with or without research to support it. What is true in the moment for me and another person. And the research is what catches up to that. It's not the other way around so much of the time.
That's really what we've found. We've done some statistics. We're privileged to do a study within our school. So that was essentially a study of our curriculum. And what we found was that objectively, each of the students found that they had larger, let's see, their scores on our 3 resilience scales were higher, but I interpret that as a deeper understanding of their own resilience, not that we added resilience to them, but they had a deeper understanding of their own.
Yes, I like that. And as I understand your resilience model, what I'm talking here about today fits in so nicely with that, with this understanding that we get to choose our thoughts, and we get to choose how we be in the moment. We get to choose how we experience life in so many ways. And when I say choose, yes, things happen to us, but I'm also understanding that it's the me that I am that is pulling that to me so that I can learn from it. And so I'm an active participant in my own life on every single level, and so is every other person. And when I understand that, then it enhances my strength. You call it resilience. It enhances my ability to be me in the world with all the love, compassion, spirit, God, intuition, all of that with me each and every moment, and using that to the best of my ability in that moment, continually experiencing, continually learning, continually evaluating, and continually going forward.
Nice. Wow. What a beautiful answer. And I see that Jan Kinder has her hand raised.
I'm here now. I'm finally unmuted. Darlene, that's exactly what I was going to comment on. So we're on the same wavelength. Thank you for doing this. This is fabulous. With coaching, I found that, nurses were always supposed to have all the answers. And, it's one thing, it's like, for all I know, I don't know anything, it feels really good to say something like that to yourself. You don't have to have the answers. You can have the conversation without always having to have all the answers for people. So it's like the coaching I found just allows you to be real. with your client and with the person you're working with. And it's a mutual respect and a mutual sharing.
Mhm.
And when we do bring our own story into it, to enhance what they're talking about, and what we're listening to what they are, to show that, again, that you're connected. I find that it humbles me because I'm learning from them. Because as they're speaking, I'm reflecting.
Mhm. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the well-being for self.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not a one-sided, I'm not just listening, I'm learning. And it's weird because I feel sometimes guilty for taking money for coaching when I'm getting so much out of it, like I want to pay them. But no, but it's that mutual share, and it's going on that subjective level, like that subjective feeling. And it's just it's such a wonderful way to interact with others. And then you can still get a couple of things that you need to teach in there. That's a good thing. But, I just find it's a wonderful way to work with people, is just through, as you're saying, conversation. I like the way you're presenting all of this too, as just really focusing on just conversation, and being present with, and taking it where it needs to go.
Mhm.
Do have a question for you too, and this happened with a client this morning where they said, well, I know you'd like to have me get me to talk and pull things out of me. And I love that. But what do you think I should do? And like, what are your feelings? How would you handle this? And what would you do? How do you address that?
That's a great question, Jan. It is a great question. I think I'm to the place where I've learned that if I know my client well enough and I'm knowing that they're really truly asking me for a perspective.
And yes is the answer to that. Yes, I've known her for 8 years.
Okay, so I would never say this is what you should do. I would never ever do that. What I would do is share with them, with their permission, some thoughts I have about it, or some perspectives I have, and to see how that lands with them.
Okay.
Well, I would think about this, or have you thought about this, or I might try this. I don't know. How does that feel to you? So you keep the relationship in the right order, but you're also contributing, and you're addressing the need of the client as expressed to you in an articulate, open way, and you're responding to it.
But the way I responded was that, well, you can take it in 3 different directions.
And maybe there's one I haven't thought of. What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah. So we can take it in 3 directions. What feels like, that you can respond to out of 3, and then any other. So yeah. Okay. So you
Nice.
can do.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. You said something there that I thought about. First of all, there are times when someone has a question and there are no answers that are emerging in the moment, which means the answer is not available yet in the way that the question is being asked. And to be okay with that, to be in that eternal now, to be in that space, peaceful, because it's only when the stress and the anxiety and the push that tries to get the answer comes up that we move away from center. Any of us do. We move away from center when we're trying to make something happen. We're trying to get something that will ease some feeling inside. And that's where I see an opportunity for me to model for myself, of course, and for others, that return to center, and to say, if there is no answer, how can we be with that for right now, that there's no answer right now? And how do you want to be in this present moment without the answer yet?
I like that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I think, as we all know, people are making some pretty difficult decisions these days. Well, not that that hasn't always been the case, but as nurses, I think it's up close and personal for a lot of us right now. as we help people with those decisions, whether we're coaches or not coaches. Yeah.
Yeah. We still have about 5 minutes. So if we have any last questions or someone who might like to raise their hand.
I just
And
wanted to read what's in the chat here from Bridget. She said, breath of fresh air to only have 4 slides and lose the reference slide. For this type of discussion, grateful for your transparency. I love it as well.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you. I understand. I do understand. So if there aren't any questions, Lynn, I think I would just like to go around and just have everybody maybe just give a short takeaway. You know, what can you walk away from this going forward? What's something that you can use going forward, or what was helpful for you? Is that okay if I do that, Lynn?
Sure. Shall we start with Anne? Anne,
Yeah, would you facilitate that, since I can't see everybody on my screen, and you know?
Well, this is interesting. It just seems like I should be able to all participants. Okay, now you should be able to unmute yourselves. You can't. Okay. Okay, Anne, I'm asking you to unmute. Does that?
Oh, great. Okay.
There she is.
Yeah, the takeaway for me is just to be present, and it's okay not to have an answer for people.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Carla, are you available?
Yes, my takeaway is to remember that silence is a good thing and that I don't have to teach and just listen and be present and let
Nice.
them do the work.
That one thing is big. Thank you, Carla.
It's huge. Let's see here, Joan.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to share that the authenticity of our presence is so important. So thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Sarah?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the presentation. I think the biggest impact for me is it's reinforcing what I tend to do with my patients already and just expanding on that, especially with the listening and also with being present and not worried about what the next thing is going to be said, and let the patient communicate what they would like to communicate. So again, that listening piece is so critical that many others have mentioned. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, I'm asking everybody to unmute, but I am not sure that that's working. If you haven't spoken, and Elizabeth, there you go. Please.
I just wanted to, I was just giving the thumbs up because everything that has been said was something that I wanted to say. So I'm just concurring.
And this is Liz, and I would say the same.
Thank you.
Well, we've reached the top of the hour. I will say that we've got a now I just wanted to say that Darlene's website is drhcoaching.com, and you let me know if there's a better way for people to reach you, or if you what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, that's fine. And it's interesting you say Dr. H, and my initials are DRH, Darlene Ruth Hess, and it is doctor also. So it's either way, it works. Yeah. Yes. No, that's fine. They can reach me that way. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your beautiful presence and your beautiful slides. I know that for myself, you're just an inspiration. And oh, Darlene, without you, where would we be? Nurse coaching would not be. And I just am thrilled to bring you to our Austin area chapter tonight. Thank you. Any last words, Teresa? Oh gosh, Teresa's been muted again. Lynn, where are you? There you are.
I can't speak when I can't unmute. I just thank you for putting up with the tech thing. I didn't know Zoom had changed so much besides getting bumped off in the middle. So just thank you for the perspective and your presence here. And I wanted to listen a lot longer.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear more.
We'll look forward to another time, and everyone have a wonderful evening, and